iPhone X, Apple's 2017 flagship device, has now come down in the price point now that we are in 2019, and flagship phones typically do drop in value after they've been on the market for quite some time. So the question is, should you buy an iPhone X in the year of 2019? Well, that's my aim of this video, to cover that. This phone launched simultaneously with the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus, but now the XR is out, doesn't offer an OLED screen. Is the iPhone X worth your time? Should you buy it? Nick here. Let's get into that video right now. Let's go. So say you purchase an iPhone X in 2019, the first thing you're going to notice is that the design is basically the same as a XS, or it's even in line with the XR. Not as colorful as the XR, but still you do have an arguably much better display with OLED technology. Now on the rear you can see just a beautiful overall package here with the iPhone X, and design very thin on the sides, a much bigger power button than before. Also on the right we have a classic silent switch and volume rockers. The back does feature wireless charging, although do not drop this phone on the back because it's going to cost you a pretty penny to fix that. On the bottom, we have barely any chin, making it an almost all-screen design, and this was the phone that started the notch trend. Well, the Essential phone was first, but this one kind of started it. The camera bump is a little bit bigger than I would like, but not as big as the XS, which is kind of nice. At the bottom, we do have our perfectly aligned speakers, and again, that mute switch is just classic iPhone right there. At the top, we do have a shiny top with really nothing to speak of there. In terms of the build quality, it's pretty strong. Actually, I've kept it in pretty thin cases and it's held up very well. However, this phone is definitely not one you want to drop, because on the front or the rear, it's going to cost you multiple hundreds to fix it if you do drop it. And I find it quite slippery at times. So definitely keep this one in a case, even a pretty sturdy case. Talking about the display, OLED technology produced by Samsung on this one gives you an incredible panel that gets plenty bright. However, the colors are not as punchy as, say, a Galaxy phone. So if you're looking for a more vibrant display, you might want to steer clear of this one. This one's more on the natural side, but still beautiful at the same time. The notch does cut a little bit into the content, but not too often. I think you can get used to it, as many people have already did that. Overall, the display you're going to get with the iPhone X definitely will not disappoint you. Software is one of the key strengths of the iPhone X, and buying it now keeps you basically up to date in software for at least the next 4 to 5 years. Even though this phone came out last year, Apple has proven track record to keep their software updated, and the iPhone X is no exception. iOS 12 fixed iOS 11's issues, and it's been running great here for the iPhone X. Runs just as good as the XS. Really, if you did a blind test and you put both these phones in someone's hand, they wouldn't even know you're using an iPhone XS or a 10. That's how similar they are. You'll have to get used to the gestures with this, but software is a win for this phone. Now, in terms of lag, there really is none to speak of, and I challenge you to make this phone lag, because I cannot do it. This phone just really has the performance you need for the day-to-day. The Apple A11 Bionic chip was ahead of its time. I mean, we already had enough power with the A10. The A11 just upped it. The A12 is just ridiculous. The battery life on this phone, though, not ridiculous. It's not the best I've seen. The 8 Plus gets better battery life than the iPhone X, and the XR gets better battery life. However, for the 2716 milliamp hour battery that is included within this package, it does do pretty good overall. When iOS 12, you can track your battery levels a little bit better. Overall, I am not too disappointed with the battery life. I think the average user will be able to get through a day with the iPhone X quite easily, actually. But a heavy user, this phone is definitely going to leave you desiring a bit more. The battery life overall, put it in low power mode if you're going to use it a little bit heavier, should get you through at least one day. Now, in terms of that camera, you're looking at a dual 12 megapixel 4K 60p recording camera. On the front, we also do have ourselves a 7 megapixel sensor, which is not that bad. It does 32 millimeters wide, so it's decently wide. It can do 1080p 30, but the 4K 60 on this phone is better than other phones because it doesn't overheat, number one. Number two, it doesn't have a recording limit. Yes, the Smart HDR and better dynamic range from the iPhone XS and XS Max do give you a better video recording quality, but not much. This phone is excellent at video. Also very good at photos, although there are phones that now do better than this phone. The software is classic iPhone, and nobody's going to be confused using an iPhone X when it comes to software versus any prior iPhone if you've used one before. Very easy, one of the fastest shutters in the business for a smartphone. The only thing about the newer phones that's better is basically dynamic range. You'll see a little bit better clouds and a little bit better shadows on the new phones, but overall, camera is stellar. Audio, on the other hand, dual speakers, one at the bottom. Also, there is one buried in the earpiece, and this really allows you to have audio that doesn't really distort too much, and it sounds pretty good. Listen to it.
But you get a lot of technology for that price. So, I mean, it's kind of justified with having the most cutting edge specs. They still could lower it a little bit considering what the Note 9 offers at an even cheaper price point.
So you've seen right there that the audio quality is pretty good. I'm happy with the external audio for the iPhone 10. No headphone jack, but we know that by now with iPhones. In terms of the phone call quality, 1 to 2 drop calls in over a year of use. So I'm saying this is acceptable phone call quality. Again, I'm coming from the perspective of a metropolitan area, Chicago. So depending on where you're at, it might not be as good. I do think Galaxy phones have better reception though. The iPhone 10 has a gorgeous design here, even in the beginning of 2019. Plenty modern, and it definitely was ahead of its time. Maybe a lot of people tended to copy this design. I do want to see the notch go away, but do keep in mind if you buy any current iPhone, you're likely going to have to deal with the notch. It's a thin design, and at its price point, is it better than a 10R? Well, I did a video on that. I will leave it linked down below as well as up in a card. But if you guys found this video helpful, entertaining, informing, do me a favor, click that like button for me and let me know in the comments section below, are you going to be getting an iPhone 10? Did you choose it over another phone? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. Happy New Year. I will catch you all in the next episode. Be sure to be well and peace.